Welcome to 2.9 on solving literal equations. So you have done this last year, literal equations, so this is review, but it's something that a lot of students have problems with in foundation, so it's a good thing to review. So a literal equation is an equation that contains more than one variable. Literal equations and formulas can be solved for a specific variable using the same procedures as equations containing one variable. So we're going to look at some equations in standard form. So these are the ones that when you graph them, you would usually graph them using their x and y intercepts. And we're going to put them in slope-intercept form, which is super useful because it makes it really easy to graph it and see what its slope is, see what its y-intercept is. Gives you good information. So on this one, when slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where x and y are variables and m and b, well, m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. And so here we want it to say y equals, so we have to get rid of this x. So we're going to do minus x on both sides. Now, it would be okay to write y equals 6 minus x, but I like this form. This is what I'm used to seeing, and this gives me good information, so that's how I'm going to write this. Negative x plus 6, and that tells me on this that my slope is -1 and that my y-intercept is 6. So that's solving for y. Okay, let's try another one. So on this one, I'm just going to subtract 2x from both sides, and so now I have y equals -2x plus 3. Okay, we're going to do number 4 together, and then you guys can try number 3. So number 4, I'm going to subtract 9x from both sides. So I get 8y equals -9x plus 14. And then we have to have the y by itself, so we have to get rid of this 8. So divide both sides by 8. So now I have y equals, and we're going to take both of these and divide it by the 8. So -9/8 x plus, okay, over here I'm going to have 14/8, and I'm going to go ahead and simplify that to 7/4. So looks like that. And if you wanted to make those into mixed numbers, you could, but I wouldn't, because then it's more difficult to find a slope. You're going to have to change it back into improper fractions to find a slope or do anything interesting with it anyway. Okay, pause and try number 3, and then come back and check when you're done. Okay, number 3 should be y equals 2/3 x minus 3. And yes, you do have to simplify 9/3 if it's a whole number. Okay, let's try something else we can do with literal equations. So when we have formulas and we want to solve for something different, literal equations or solving for a specific variable can help us to make a formula that's more useful to us. So we have the distance formula, which is d equals rt, getting that from up here, and then we want to solve it for t. So in order to get rid of the r that's being multiplied, we're going to divide both sides by r. And so now we have t equals d over r. I could have kept them flipped, t over here, d over r over here, but I just like the way this looks better, so I'm going to do that. Okay, now we're going to use our new equation here to determine how many minutes it will take us to travel 185 miles at a rate of 65 miles per hour. So time equals distance. So I'm subbing 185 in for d, and then I'm subbing 65 in for my r. I earlier used my calculator to figure this out, and I rounded to 2.85. And notice this is miles per hour, so that means that this is hours, and our question is asking us about minutes. And so I multiplied that by 60, and I got 171 minutes. And remember, I rounded in there, so I'm going to put my little approximately equal to, just so I know that it was not super precise. There was an estimation that happened. Okay. Moving on, I'm going to do number 9 and 10, so you get more of an idea, and then you guys are going to do 7 and 8. Okay, so down here, use the formula for perimeter. So the formula for perimeter from the other side of the paper was P equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, and we want to solve it for the length. So I have to get rid of my 2w. So p minus 2w equals 2l. Divide both sides by 2. And so I have p over 2, or I could think of that as 0.5p or 1/2 p if I wanted to. And now I'm doing negative 2 divided by 2, which is going to be negative 1. So just minus the width equals the length. And then the last thing we're going to do is substitute it in here. So length equals, the perimeter is 90 yards. So instead of the p from over here, I'm going to put 90 over 2, because that's just what our formula says, minus the width, which is 15. And so 90 divided by 2 is 45, minus 15, and I get L equals 30. Our unit here is feet. Oh, I just realized I messed up because we have 90 yards. So if it's 90 yards, we have to multiply that by, we either have to multiply that by 3 to get feet, or let's go ahead and, this is going to be easier. Let's divide the 15 feet by 3. And so that's going to be 5 yards. So instead of 15, I'm going to subtract 5. And so my final answer is going to be 40 yards. It doesn't specify whether we're going to solve in for yards or for feet, so we might as well just do the one that is easier for us. Okay, so I want you guys to try 7, 8, and then down here the check your understanding problem. So pause it and come back when you've got those completed. Okay, so on the top here, radius equals circumference divided by 2 pi. Should have gotten something around 9.55 feet, depending on if you used the pi button on your calculator, or 3.14. And then down at the bottom, your answer should be y equals negative a over bx plus c over b. And I realized that you could also write it like this for the negative ab over x. Whoops, hang on. You can't see that. You could also write it like this with the x on top. I like it like this though, because this is standard form and this is slope-intercept form. So it's just nicer when I'm thinking about linear relationships. But this would be okay too. All right, mark anything down that you have questions about, and we'll talk about it in class.